use webinar on saving energy in your home office. Before we get started, I wanted to just go through a few bits of housekeeping. So this event is being recorded and will be available afterwards. All attendees are muted with the cameras off. You can submit questions using the Q&A function rather than the chat function, actually, and we'll answer as many questions as we can at the end of the event. And as I say, recording will be available after the event, and we'll be sending that out to your energy teams as a link. And now I'll hand you over to Mark Skerritt. Mark is an energy advisor with Optimising Power at Work and is going to take you through how to save energy at home when you're working. Over to you, Mark.
Hi guys, thank you very much. My name is Mark Skerritt and I'm an energy advisor and I'm very glad to be bringing you this talk today on energy in the home office as part of the Reduce Your Use campaign. So as we know, over the last few years, the way that we work has changed quite dramatically, and we now find ourselves where we work at home and we work in our traditional office space. But even though we do that, we still use the same type of equipment, and we still have the same sort of responsibilities towards saving energy and also keeping ourselves warm in the summertime, warm in the wintertime and cool in the summertime. And we have equipment like our PCs and our printers, etc., just as we do in the office. So I hope to just be able to give you a few tips on this. You probably know most of them anyway, because we have all been doing this for quite some time now. So it's just a refresher, really. So the first thing I started off with, basically when I had to work from home, was I had to pick somewhere to work. Initially, I thought this was quite a simple thing to do, and I parked myself in the kitchen, nice big table, and thought I'll get lots done here. But the light wasn't so good in there really, and there was a lot of distractions, and so I decided to move somewhere else. So I went into the dining room. Now the dining room was great. It's got lots of natural light for the so I didn't need so much lighting, and it was warm, and it was well orientated for the winter time. And so that was great place to work. Obviously I have to share it with the dining room, so I have to move my stuff away, but all in all, it's very good. So one of the things I'd like to talk about here is just PCs and laptops. We just like we do at work, we have to remember to make sure that we put them into sleep mode, so they're using as little energy as possible. When we have our laptops there, we should charge them up fully, then disconnect the charger and switch it off, so we're not using energy from that. And when we finish in the evening, we should turn our systems off and put them away so they're not using any excess energy. Also, try not to use screensavers because they don't actually save any energy. Better off to put your machine into sleep mode, standby mode. Also, sometimes if we can just turn down the brightness, that also helps to just save our eyes a little bit as well. And also, obviously, we're using less energy that way. As the title of the slide, it's kind of hold the press. And that's quite interesting from a point of view of when we're in our workspace, our traditional workspace, we don't really have that much of a concern for printers. They tend to be on standby and sleep mode and energy saving settings. But at home, that isn't necessarily the case. So the first thing we must do is really have a think about what we need to print. Do we need to print something? So only use the printer when necessary. If we do need to use it, use black and white. It's more economical and saves a bit of energy. Double-sided paper as well. We're still using less trees. And when we finished with it, turn off the printer. Interestingly enough, I always had the printer in the corner of the room, out of the way. But what tended to happen with me is that I would leave it on, and it would be on for days and days. And obviously it's using energy in standby mode. And every incremental saving that we make is really important. So a friend of mine, they put their printer on the table right in front of them. So it's there and they can turn it off quite quickly and readily. So that's a very good tip, I thought. Now, as part of the campaign, probably on Friday, you'll learn more about the switching off equipment. I found that by getting an extension lead, and on that extension lead, I could have all the equipment that I have in the office plugged into it, and any equipment that I needed to turn off, I could turn it off quite easily by just using one switch. There's lots of different timers on the market. There's some that you can get connected to your phone, so you can actually turn them off by using your phone. They have like a Wi-Fi dongle connected to them. And of course, we have our traditional timers as well, just like an ordinary analog timer, 24 hours. At a certain time, it turns things off. These things may only save a small amount of energy every time they're used. But again, as in the workplace we're more traditionally used to, at home, all these little savings add up. Another area that I found was very good was the fact that when I was at home, I could be in one room and I would have one light on. And that was great, but I was still not really using the whole room. I know where everything is in the room. So generally, what I got was a light, which a work kind of specific light that I could use on the desk. So I didn't have to have the big light on, and I could use even less energy that way. And that worked for me, and it may work for you too. Obviously, when it got too dark, I didn't want to be sitting in total darkness in the room, so I could turn the light on then. But then for them few hours, it worked very well. Obviously, if we can dim our lights, that also helps to use less energy. And of course, within the whole house, really focus on getting in energy efficient bulbs as best we can. Now, just like at work, we want to be warm when we're working, and there's several strategies that we employ to do that. Our house is really designed to be full. You know, we've lots of generally with families and their communities and generally other. But if there's only, say, for example, yourself working in the office, I'd really own the house so that we don't have everywhere on when we turn the heating on. Maybe we have heating controls on the wall and we can set them in certain areas so that the heating doesn't come on and just heat the office. This can be done by the radiator thermostatic valves there. We can set them so the radiators don't come on, or they could be the thermostatic controls on the walls. So really what we're trying to do there is we're only heating what we need, and we're trying to reduce the amount of energy that we use within the house while we have to work from home. And this as well, I would consider a portable heater and maybe not have the heating system on at all. And we can get very good portable heaters now. We get 220 watt infrared heaters that just sit under the desk, and they kind of heat the body, which is very good. Again, with heating, it's in many ways we're kind of really trying to heat the human now at the moment, as opposed to the space. And generally, the temperature that we're looking for now is around 19 degrees. And we have to remember that every time that we reduce the temperature by a degree, we can save up to 10% on our energy costs. And this obviously, again, is like the electricity. It has a cumulative effect, and that every small saving we make is very, very important. So I'm not the warmest of people, really, and I would feel cool. And I tend to find that putting a jumper on is really good. You know, putting on a woolly jumper really does help. We're trying to heat the human, as you could say. So maybe a blanket over your legs or an electric throw can be good, or gloves. I know that these things sound sort of like really arcane, like we're going back in time in many respects. But we do live in what could be considered interesting times. And as well, the burden of you know, electricity costs and heating costs from a home point of view, you know, every little helps to sort of like make it more bearable. Also, if we take regular breaks, you know, get a walk around, maybe go out for a quick walk. It's for the circulation, and it's also to take a break from the screen. Another area really is to have a cup of tea. hot drink is very good for keeping us warm. It tends to be good for morale at all times. But in the morning, I tend to boil a kettle of water, make a pot of tea, put a tea cozy over that. That really helps now. Another thing I do is that I have a flask of hot water as well, and I use that. And that means that I'm not boiling the kettle as much. Also, just a little thing when you would be actually making a tea or anything like that is be attentive that you are boiling the kettle. I used to always get really distracted. So I would put the kettle on and I'd listen to I'd hear something like a football result and I'd be away thinking something else. Kettle would be boiled, forget about it, go back again, I'd have to reboil the kettle. Not a great thing for an energy engineer to be doing, really, to be honest. Another thing, make sure the kettle's working properly. There's no lime scale on it. Another little thing there is you could actually put a meter on the kettle as well, which is quite good just to see how much energy that the kettle physically uses. As an example, just really so that it reinforces how much energy they use. And obviously make a pot or a flask of tea or a flask of coffee. And although all of these things may all be small incremental things, they do all add up, especially over a long period of time. And they may just do the trick for us. Okay, so that's about all I have to say on the Home Office. There are lots more information coming on the SEAI website that we can look at, and also Reduce Your Use campaign. Lots of helpful information there. And also we have information there on home energy and savings tips as well. So I'd just like to thank you all for listening to me there now, and wish you all a very pleasant day.
Thanks, Mark. And I'm just waiting to see if any question answers come in. While I'm waiting for that, I felt a bit guilty there about the printer. I have a deal with HP where they detect if I need ink and they send me ink. But the printer has to be on. And I might need to experiment with that and see if it works, if I have the printer on only at certain times and so on. Will it communicate enough to sort that out? Because the printer is always on the corner of my room. Are there any? If you've got questions, please can you pop them in the Q&A, and we'll post them to Mark. Don't know if you've not seeing any. Have you come across this issue of having to have printers on, having to have things communicating with all the time, and people leaving machines on as a result, Mark?
Hi there, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I just got a slight bit of interference here. I didn't hear that question.
Oh yes, I was just saying about is that a common problem you come across? People saying the machine needs to be left on because it needs to communicate either with work or with in my case, a supplier.
Not really that. Funnily enough, most people their printers tend to be the smaller type at home, and they don't have that. I mean, it's a good one. It's I don't have that problem basically.
I'll have to experiment with that and see.
Yeah.
We've got some questions coming through now. So first one is, can you recommend an energy monitor? I think there's a lot out there in the market, but I don't know if you've got any particular preferences, Mark.
Sorry.
And I might bring Anita on as well if you want to, if you've got an answer to that. I think we're having problems with Mark's sound. I'll go through some more questions. Hi
there.
Hi. You back?
Apologies. Have you any questions there? I'll happy.
Yes, I've got a few questions here. So I've got, can you recommend an energy monitor?
Well, recommend an energy monitor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can be quite good energy monitors. The one that I have, it's connected to the meter outside, and we have it in the house, and it has a very good display on it. It's an OW monitor, and it's very good at showing all the loads that we may have on at any time in the house. It basically shows when things are ramping up, and it's very good for seeing what your base load is, and then from there extrapolating what pieces of kit really use what amounts of energy. So I find an energy monitor very good, very useful for me. Of course, the simple way as well may be that sometimes you can just take a meter reading.
Mm-hmm.
Can be another.
And I suppose there's a difference between a whole house energy monitor as well that you might stick on your outside supply and a monitor that monitors a particular socket.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So somebody's asked, are the infrared heaters you mentioned efficient? I think this is the under the table
Yeah,
kind of infrared heater.
well, they are efficient from a point of view is that you put 1 kilowatt in and you will get 1 kilowatt of heat energy out from an infrared source. So yes, they are efficient. They're not really heating the air. They're heating items because they work on infrared. So they heat objects. So from a point of view of energy in, energy out, they tend to be very good. Obviously, they're not in the same category as a heat pump or things like that, but they're vastly more efficient than an oil-filled radiator or something like that, which heats the air, and air, as we know, is a very transient substance. So therefore, when you heat the air, open a door, the heat is gone. Whereas it really comes back to the difference. If you remember your mother or grandmother, who they would say that, oh, there's no heat in them radiators like the fire. Well, the reason for that is that radiators heat air, and the fire is infrared, gives off infrared energy and heats objects. So the heat stays in the room longer. So it's the same principle.
And so it's perfect for if you're staying in one place and on your desk, actually, isn't it? Because it's heating you then directly.
Absolutely, and that's really what you want to do as well. Obviously, we don't want the air to be that cold that it's uncomfortable to be in the room, but they're very good for heating the human, so to speak.
I've got another one here. If using an extension lead, is it best to turn off at the socket or on the lead? I think it means if there's a switch, a rocker on the lead itself.
It tends a lot. The extension leads that I use now all have switches built into the socket. So the extension lead itself is like a master and a slave extension lead. So the master would be where you would switch it off, say at the wall, but then you have slaves on that extension lead. So you can switch each individual items off. So for example, you might have a piece of equipment that you don't want switched off for whatever reason. Say, for example, it's the Wi-Fi and it's in your office, but you have the printer on the same extension lead and you have your laptop and a few other items. You can press individually each item that you want to switch off. So it's not a case of all or nothing. You can be a little bit more specific, and really there's no problem as long as you're turning it off at the wall when you want everything off. It's not an issue.
Okay. I've got a question here. Is it okay to use smart plugs that are essentially on all the time? How much energy do they use as opposed to leaving an appliance plugged in all the time?
Well, I wouldn't be in favor of leaving anything plugged on all the time that isn't an essential piece of equipment. So generally, if a smart plug or something you wanted to use for time specific, say you're out or you're somewhere else, then you can use them. But if you're at home, I see no reason really that you can't get up and just switch something off,
A gainer's come back and said, not a question, but I also have a personal HP printer, not for work, and you won't get a top up if it's off. So that's answered. That's told me what my situation is. So I'll have to think about that in future. If a laptop is fully charged but is still plugged in, does it use as much energy as when charging it up?
No, because it's charged, so it's not necessarily taking charge, but the charging unit itself is still active, so therefore there would be current within it. So really, from two reasons really, you can still, as the battery then depletes, you will be using charge from that. So you will be inefficiently using your battery, because the way that lithium ion batteries work is that they have so many life cycles, and the life cycle is taken from when a battery is charged and depleted, And so you just mess around with the life cycles of them, you know, if you don't deplete them properly.
Yes, and I can see that on my phone as well, and I've just unplugged my laptop. I always forget to do that. How do you find out which companies install controls for heating in houses? I think we might get back to you on that one. I don't know if you know, Mark, but I think I probably can find out and
Um,
send it out
yeah,
after.
I think that's probably the best way to do that. There's lots of people, but you know, it can be area specific as well.
So let's see if we've got any. Is it cost effective to turn off all radiators bar the one in the room you're using, or just turn off the heat upstairs and leave downstairs on, assuming you're working downstairs?
Well, the way that works is, you see, there's lots of different strategies that you
Mm.
can use, and they can depend on how the house is zoned, or if you have TVRs on the radiators. Personally, if you have a type of boiler, say like an oil boiler or a gas boiler, if you can just have the one room on, just have the one room on, because the water that you're heating to go round the system won't have to go to as many radiators. So it'll be coming back warmer to the boiler every time. So it doesn't have to use as much energy to reheat the water to return to your room. So it tends to be, the strategy is turn as much off as you can, and what you can't turn off, you can't turn off.
Great, thank you very much. I think we've got one last one here. Is it possible to fit thermostatic radiator valves yourself, or is it something you need a plumber to do?
Yes, that is a kind of an interesting question. I, if you're kind of a confident person, you probably can. But if you don't feel confident in doing it, maybe ask a plumber, get a little bit of advice that way, and then if you feel confident, have a go. And if not, you know, and you can find a plumber, good luck with that, and you know, do it that way. Really, yeah.
Great, thank you very much. I think we'll call it to a close there, but thank you so much for the presentation, Mark, and thank you all for your great questions.
Okay, thank you very much.